Good evening from Israel. As Hamas rockets streaked over Tel Aviv tonight, warning sirens briefly interrupted delicate high-level talks to dial back the Israel-Hamas war. And there is late word that President Biden may travel to Israel as early as this week. Secretary of State Antony Blinken already on the ground here tonight, leading the push for a diplomatic resolution to the crisis. Meeting with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his war cabinet, the group forced to take shelter twice after rocket alerts sounded. The U.S. tonight also pushing for the opening of Egypt's border crossing with Gaza to allow Americans and others to leave Gaza and allow vital supplies into the territory. With Israel postured to wage a full-scale ground assault at any time in Gaza, Hamas has posted video of an Israeli woman it claims is one of the hostages it holds and says it is prepared to release non-Israeli hostages if conditions allow. In a moment, part of my conversation with the man who successfully negotiated a prisoner release with Hamas years ago. It's where we start tonight. Tonight, the first video of a hostage held inside Gaza, released by Hamas. In it, 21-year-old Maya Shem asks to be brought home as soon as possible and says she's being given medical care. It's unclear if she's being forced to make the statement. Meanwhile, a Hamas leader says non-Israeli captives will be released from Gaza if conditions allow. Hamas is holding 199 hostages, according to the Israeli military. Gershon Baskin negotiated with Hamas to secure the high-profile release of Israeli soldier Gilad Shalit in 2011. He says he's been in contact with Hamas every day since the attack. What's the best approach to even open a dialogue with Hamas?
The best approach is understanding that it can't be directly done by Israel. To start a dialogue with Hamas, we have to understand who can do it. And the ones who can do it are the countries that have influence over Hamas, which are Qatar, Turkey, and Egypt, and Iran.
Baskin says there's a small window of opportunity to make a deal to release hostages.
It's a matter of days, probably a week, before the Israeli ground forces go into Gaza. That's when the window for negotiation closes.
But that means that hostages are sacrificed.
It means that hostages are going to be tried to be freed, and they might be sacrificed. My sense of the pulse of the Israeli public right now, the government and the military, is that the primary objective today is to remove Hamas from its ability to govern. And that means that hostages may be sacrificed. This hurts me so much to say that the hostages might be considered additional casualties of the war for Israel's survival.
It comes amid a flurry of diplomatic activity. 3 U.S. officials tell NBC News President Biden is strongly considering a trip to Israel as early as this week, while Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with Prime Minister Netanyahu and his war cabinet for hours today, a meeting interrupted by air raid sirens.
You know our deep commitment to Israel's right, indeed its obligation, to defend itself and to defend its people.
A critical part of those talks, aid for Gaza, where the humanitarian crisis is worsening by the minute. Hospitals are in complete chaos. There is no power. With morgues full, ice cream trucks are now being used to store bodies, while trucks carrying supplies have not been allowed to enter Gaza. Just across the border sits the Israeli town of Sderot, now being evacuated ahead of a possible ground invasion. Here in Sderot, you can hear the constant whine of Israeli drones, presumably looking for targets. In the town itself, more than half the population has already evacuated. For those who remain, time is running out. The last buses evacuating people have come and gone, and the sounds of war are growing closer. Moments later, we heard just how close. Well, we heard the sound of incoming shells. We moved into one of these public shelters with you. Here's some other journalists here. Then, as we started to leave, another explosion. Outside we thought it was the all clear, but we heard another bang very close by. No one was hurt, and we soon left. But staying behind is Yaritzi Mantov, who's helping coordinate evacuations. Are you going to leave?
No. It's scary, it's not simple, but we love Sderot. Our heart is here, we can't leave when we know they need us here.
This city official also vowing to stay. How dangerous is it to remain in Sderot? He says it's very dangerous because terrorists are still walking around the area near Gaza. The Israeli military says this newly released video was from a body camera worn by a Hamas militant during October 7th's brutal attack. The head of Israel's security services now taking responsibility for failing to prevent it, writing in a letter, despite a series of actions, we were unable to generate a sufficient warning that would allow the attack to be thwarted, adding, as the person at the head of the organization, the responsibility for this is mine. Tonight, so many families are now burying their loved ones, with more than 4,000 people dead 10 days into this war. Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.